Okay.
So about 6 months ago, I started on the project of engine swapping my Yaris, and let me show you the progress that I have made. Very little. Basically nothing. But that ends today because we are now going to get stuck in on this 2ZR swap. So I've got lots of excuses as to why the 1NZ is still in this car, and I will probably get to them throughout this video. But for now, let's get to the engine swap, and that starts with sourcing parts. A lot of that part sourcing actually happened a couple months ago, so let's look at that footage. So first things first, we gotta find the parts for the swap. So I'm headed to my local junkyard because there is one manual Scion XD here, and hopefully it's got all the parts we need. The Scion XD and the Yaris are supposedly identical from the firewall forward. So to make a 2ZR work in a Yaris, you just need an XD ECU, wiring harness, and motor mount. To use my transmission, I'm also going to need the flywheel from the 2ZR, and I didn't end up taking this one because it didn't look very good. Just take my word for it. Okay, I only came away with the ECU and the motor mount. Not bad, but not everything we need. So off to the next junkyard. You know, there is something therapeutic about going through junkyards. You know, you're outside, you can work on cars. It doesn't matter if something breaks. You're learning about the part that you're gonna install because you're uninstalling it. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a relaxing, chill way to spend a day. But if I don't find the parts that I need at the next junkyard, then, you know, maybe I'll change my opinion on that. The problem with trying to find an engine harness at a junkyard is that for it to be useful, every single part of that engine harness needs to be intact. Okay, number 3, sun is setting, so let's see if I can find this harness. And no luck at junkyard number 3, which means we might have to order some parts. They keep on looking, but I took a look at the wiring harness online. It's actually not too bad to buy a used one. It's definitely cheaper than I thought. So I think I'm gonna do that, and we can start going on this swap. So some of the delays might be pretty obvious if you're watching my other videos, the 4Runner, the Ranger, the change in job. But one of the biggest reasons that I haven't really been working on the Yaris is that the class that it was competing in kind of disappeared. GR Movement restructured their classes this season, and the classes go as follows. Pre-2001, not this. FRS 86BRZ, not this. E210 Corolla, not this. GR86 and BRZ, the new ones, GR Supra, GR Corolla, Lexus, and an MR2 class. Like, this guy doesn't fit into any of those. So what I've had to do is find a new series to race in, and the one I've been chasing is Club TR for Grid Life. And when I looked at the events in California, there are only 3 of them, and 2 of the 3 I was already not going to be able to go to. So at this point, I'm targeting the 3rd and final event in California for Club TR at Thunderhill. But it's at the end of the year, which means I can take my time on this and get it done right. Of course, I'm going to want to get some seat time before heading up to Thunderhill. But with that being the event that I'm aiming for, it's I've been taking care of other things instead. So, like I said, I'm going to get all my excuses out of the way, and we're going to get cracking on this. By the end of this video, that engine is going to be out. Okay, so step one will be draining fluids, and then we are going to do radiator and core support, and then we're gonna start disconnecting the engine. One thing I did forget to do is depressurize the fuel system before I started on any of this, and now I have an engine with no oil in it, so I'm not going to be able to start the engine right now to depressurize the fuel system. Not a great situation, but I'm just going to barrel on through it and be careful. Thought it was going to be worse than that. Definitely a tiny bit of fuel, but it wasn't like a spurt like I was thinking of. On with disconnecting stuff. It's promising to see when things are really similar between these two cars. The ECU from the Yaris and the ECU from the XD have the exact same hookups, the exact same brackets, everything about them looks to be identical. So hopefully that trend continues. So I decided I am going to take out the transmission, and since I'm going to take out the transmission, that means the axles need to get disconnected, which means we're going to need to drain the transmission fluid, which also means we need to take the wheels off and get the axles out. It's really just, you know, like take everything off. But if we're going to do it, might as well do it right. Taking these axles off requires a big old 30mm 12-point socket. It probably requires the tire to be on and the car to be on the ground to get this nut started. If I do this, yeah, I'm just spinning the transmission. Of course, right now I don't need to torque down the wheels or anything special. I just need to get the car back on the ground so that I have a leverage point so that I can loosen those axle nuts. Looks good. With the axle nuts loosened, I can raise the car back up and take the wheels off. The next is going to be disconnecting the lower control arm. So I got a question. How many times do you have to use something before it's worth buying? Because I can rent a ball joint separator for free from AutoZone anytime I need it. But every time I end up needing it, it costs me like 45 minutes to go get it. Maybe I should just buy one. I'm just gonna shed a little tear every time I see a 4Runner from now on.
2, 3.
So like I said, I've got a lot of excuses as to why this has taken so long, and one of the excuses I haven't yet made is the cost. This is the most expensive mod that I've ever done to the Yaris, just the sheer amount of parts that are gonna need to be changed over, plus the engine itself, plus I wanna do it right, so I'm getting some nice parts here and there. And one of the things that has helped me out with this is a company called AEG. AEG is a membership program for enthusiasts and basically makes you the mechanic at a shop. So they get a shop level discount that a large corporation would normally get from places like O'Reilly, and they pass that discount on to you as long as you're a member. And it's not just O'Reilly's, it's all kinds of stores. So whether you're ordering something special for your car or you need to run out last minute and get a fuel line disconnector, you're not gonna break the bank doing it, and you can spend more of your hard-earned money on the parts that you want. So things like this flywheel back here, I got at a pretty steep discount. And on top of that, AEG gives you access to the OEM shop manual. That way you can make sure that you are doing your project right. If you're just looking to change oil, wiper blades, and a cabin air filter, then AEG is not for you. But if you are constantly working on cars, save yourself a little bit of money and join AEG. AEG literally just launched, so what it's gonna become is determined by who its first members are. If you wanna become a member, there is a link in the description. And with yet another excuse out of the way, I'm gonna get back to the Yaris. So under here, we need to disconnect the axles, which look a little funky because I've been tugging on them. We need to disconnect the motor mount or the transmission mount from the bottom of the transmission. And then we also need to disconnect the exhaust. So I'm starting to look around this engine for where I can attach the crane, and it doesn't have any obvious points. I think most people would pull this engine out from the bottom, but I don't have a lift or anything like that, so the crane is the way to go for me. On the transmission side, I think I'm gonna wrap around the whole transmission, get really solid there. And then on the engine side, I think this alternator bracket might be strong enough. This is not a very heavy engine, and even with the transmission, you know, we're talking 300 pounds. Okay, we are closing in on the moment of truth. I've got the crane all connected to the engine. It's got the weight of the engine right now, and I can just loosen the motor mounts. Normally, when you do an engine swap or pull an engine or anything like that, you're gonna forget about one cable that is still attached. One cable, one wire, one hose, something like that. If I get this on my first try, I'll call that a win. We are so close. The engine is not attached to anything. It is basically, I just need to actually physically get it out of the engine bay. And just like that, we have a whole lot more space to work in. That is the hard part of the engine swap. And now we gotta get ready for the harder part. No joke, engine swaps happen all the time. People pull motors left and right, but this is the first time that I've ever pulled a motor. But I'm just happy that I got to this point. The next thing that I'm gonna need is an engine to go here, because I don't have that yet. And honestly, that's not the only thing that needs to happen. In taking this apart, there are a ton of things with this car that need to be addressed. Little things like just cleaning up this engine bay and making sure parts are replaced with nicer, newer parts. And little things with the suspension and stuff like that that I never noticed until now. So yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to happen. Hopefully there's not too much of a wait before the engine itself goes in. And I don't know, I'm just excited. I'm just excited to be at this point. So pretty soon, instead of me being here, it'll be a 2ZR motor from a Scion XD. And it might have a little bit more than your average Scion XD. So stick around, stay tuned for the next video. I'll keep updates coming as well as other vehicles and my work at racetracks. See you in the next one.